Hello everybody and welcome to today's lesson for level 1-4. Today we're going to be talking about everything you could possibly want to know about the wonderful world of ties. Yeah, so things are about to get a whole lot more interesting, so buckle up, here we go. Okay, so we're going to start with this very exciting measure of quarter notes that you have in front of you. I'm not going to entertain you with a performance of this. I have a feeling you would know how that goes. But instead, I'm actually going to spice things up a little bit. I'm actually going to tie the first chord note to the second chord note together. What did that do exactly? Well, it essentially combined this note with this note. So now we're going to kind of treat these two notes as if it was one note, because that's what the tie does. It combines two note values together and turns it into one. On its own, this quarter note in this time signature gets one beat. This chord note also gets one beat. So since the tie is there now, it connects the two. 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 beats. Good. And we're also going to quickly just put a little dash up here in the counting just to reflect that as well. Alright, so what will this masterpiece sound like? Let's figure that out. 2, ready, go. 1, 3, 4. Ta, ta, ta. Lovely. We could also tie the third and fourth chord note together, and we'd also have to do this up here. What would this sound like now? Now we have two note values here and here. They're both worth 2 beats each. Here we go. 2, ready, go. 1, 3, ta, ta. And real quick before we move on, I just want to let you know that this can also be rewritten as this. That's right, our old friend the half note. This is worth 2 beats in this time signature. This is worth 2 beats in the time signature. So you could literally just rewrite this measure as 2 half notes as well. Alright, so the next slide here, we have another thrilling measure of rhythm here, nothing but eighth notes. I'm not going to model this for you because I think you understand how it goes. Let's say we want to tie this eighth note to that eighth note together. And now we combine those two eighth notes, which means we have to put a little dash right there. What would this sound like? Well, here we go. 2, ready, go. 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and. It's no longer 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and because you're combining these two eighth notes together, right? What if we want to do that for all of them? Actually, let's see. Tie those together, those together, those together. The counting changes with the dashes. Everything's combined now. This is going to sound like this. Maybe you already have an idea what it sounds like. 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ta, 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 ta. Yeah, and you know what? You can rewrite this as 4 quarter notes. Okay, because once you combine each of these two groups of eighth notes, it's worth 1 beat, right? Because 2 eighth notes equal 1 quarter note, and 1 quarter note is worth 1 beat in this time signature. So that's another way to rewrite this rhythm. A very exciting rhythm, if I may add. Alright, so you may be wondering to yourself, you know, if there's already a symbol that represents this, which is a half note, and a symbol that already represents this, which is a quarter note, then what the heck is the use? I mean, why even bother with the ties in the first place if these already exist? Well, I'm so glad you asked that to yourself, wherever you are watching this right now, because the next slide is going to explain more uses of the tie. So yes, here we go. Okay, so this has 2 measures of quarter notes, getting a little more fancy here. And let's say we don't want to put a tie here to here or here to here. Let's say we want to put a tie from this last quarter note of the first measure to the first one of the next measure. So that means that we connect beat 4 to the next beat 1, and we no longer say 1 when we actually count the rhythm. Here we go. What does this sound like? 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. Ta, 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 ta. Okay. So you may remember that this also equals one of these guys down here, a half note. But you can't use that half note because if you put a half note right there, that would actually mean that there's 5 beats in this measure. And you can't have that because you can only have 4 beats in each measure based on the time signature. So that's one of the reasons why ties exist, is if you want to tie 2 rhythms that go across the bar, you can't use one of these. You have to use one of these in order to show that duration that happens to be going over the bar. Okay, so here's the next slide, and here's where things start to get a little tricky, so stay with me here. Let's just talk about this first measure, not the second one just yet. What does this sound like on its own? Let's just review that real quick. 2, ready, go. 1, 2, and 3, 4. Ta, 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 ta. Okay, easy enough. Let's say we want to connect this quarter note to this eighth note. This is the first time that we're using a tie to connect 2 different note values together, at least in this lesson. So what does this mean? This means we have to put a dash in between beats 1 and the start of beat 2. Okay, so that means that now this quarter note doesn't last for just this long. It lasts for this long, right? Because those the eighth note and quarter note are combined. That means that you're still gonna start on 1. But you're going to say 1 or say ta until you get to the end of 2. Okay? What does this one measure sound like? 2, ready, go. 1 and 3, 4. Ta, 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 ta. Ta, 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 ta. 1 and 3, 4. Alright, let's look at the second measure. We're essentially going to do the same thing we did here, only just starting on beat 2 this time. So that means we're going to put a tie from this quarter note to this eighth note. Okay, let's put our blue dash there in the counting. That means that when you say 2 here, you're going to hold it out until you get to not just the start of 3, but until the end of 3, right? Because these 2 rhythms are now combined. Just the second measure, what does this sound like? 2, ready, go. 1, 2, and 4. 1, 2, and 4. Ta, 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 ta. Ta, 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 ta. And I think before we move on to the next slide, let's just combine these 2 measures together now, and what would that sound like? 2, ready, go. 1 and 3, 4. 1, 2, and 4. Ta, 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 ta. Okay, one more use of the tie for today. Earlier we had a quarter note and an eighth note tied together. Well, what if we reversed that order? What if we wanted an eighth note first, then tied to a quarter note? So let's say right here, what if we wanted to put a tie from this eighth note to that quarter note? Alright, so we're going to put a dash from the end of 1 to the start of 2. So this is no longer 1 and 2, 1 and 2. Let's just hear with the metronome what the first measure will sound like. 2, ready, go. 1 and rest, 4. Ta, ta, rest, 4. So you can hear me holding out that and, because now that and, the offbeat of 1, is now connected to a full quarter note on beat 2. 1 and rest, 4. Right? The second measure, I'm going to do the same thing this time on the and of 3 to the downbeat of 4. So just again, eighth note tied to a quarter note in that order. And just to kind of review a little bit, I'm also going to tie these 2 quarter notes together. So let's see, the counting now changes. Dash there and a dash there. Alright, so this will sound all together like this. 2, ready, go. 1 and rest, 4. 1, 3 and. Ta, ta, rest. 4, ta, ta, ta. So with any of these examples that you encounter in these lessons, especially this one, if they're still confusing or you still don't understand them after you hear them just once, please rewind the video and just repeat them again. Sometimes you're going to need to hear them just more than once. Okay, last slide. It's a 4-measure example. I pretty much just put all of the information, all of the ways of using a tie all together. Do me a favor, just pause the video now, check out the counting, check out what I did, see how the ties affect the counting, and maybe try and figure out how you would perform this yourself before you hear me do it. Okay, pause the video now. Okay, so you just tried it yourself. That's a great way to check your understanding with these videos. Now you're ready to hear me do it to check your work. Here we go. 2, ready, go. 1, 2, and 4. 2 and 4. 1 and 2 and 4, 1 and 3 and. Again on ta. Ta, 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 ta. Ta, ta, ta. Ta, ta, ta. Ta, 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 ta. Alright everybody, thanks for watching, and like always, if you're still stumped, come track me down and we can talk about it. Good luck on the rhythm sheet.